Om Sadashiva Samarabham
Samarambam
Shankaracharya
Shankaracharya
Asmadacharya
Asmadacharya
Paryantam
Paryantam
Vande Guru
Vande Guru
Paramparam.
Paramparam.
Om
Om
Sahana
Sahana Vavatu
Bhavatu Sahano
Sahanam
Bhunaktu
Bhunaktu
Sahaviryam
Sahaviryam
Karavavahai
Karavavahai
Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma
Tejasvinavadhitamastuma
Vidavahai.
Vidavahai.
Om
Om
Shanti
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 Shanti.
Shanti.
Okay, so continuing from where we left off, we are on the 7th chapter and we should be chanting verse number 20. So we'll chant. Please unmute yourself. Kamai stai stai hratagnyanaha Kamai stai stai hratagnyanaha
Kamaistaistairdhyana
Prapadyantenyadevataha
Prapadyantenya
Tam tam niyamamaasthaya
Niyamamaasthaya
Prakritya niyata swaya.
Prakritya niyatasvaya.
Okay, so now supposing there is a question, supposing some Purvapakshi asks a question that you have said earlier, O Krishna, that the path to moksha has been very, very clearly defined. What is that? You do karma yoga, you do upasana yoga, you come to chitta shuddhi, you come to shravanam, get the knowledge, then you come to mananam, have doubt-free knowledge. When you come to nididhyasanam, get the viparita bhavana all taken care of, and then you are a jnani. So very clear path to moksha has been defined. And if that is so clear, then a question can come, how come jnanis are not there? How come there are not so many jnanis in this world? So there is a problem. This is the answer. The answer is being given here, that jnanis are rare. Why? Because most people use their bhakti for what purpose? We are saying there are a lot of people who are bhaktas, but most of them do bhakti for what purpose? They do pujas for either improvement in possession in their profession, to get promotions, or to have more possessions, or for the sake of their families. Husband should get a better job, wife should be doing something better, the children should get good admission, or for your own sake, that my body should be in good state, that my mind should be calm, all these things. People use it only for the pancha anatma. Pancha anatma is what? Profession, possession, family, body, and mind. So people want to focus on the improvement of these 5 things. But what is the real purpose of bhakti? Bhakti is meant for jnana vairagya, right? So there is a higher purpose for the use of bhakti as a sadhana, and that is meant for vairagyam, and therefore coming to jnanam. So it is like, you live somewhere in Rishikesh, and every morning you go to the Ganga, you get a bucket of water, and then you utilize that water for what? For cleaning your house. That Ganga Jal has a higher purpose. It can be used for puja. It can also be used for cleaning your house. And the water will clean your house just as effectively as any other water. But you are wasting the very, tool. The tool is Ganga Jal, should be used for puja, but you are washing your house. But in the same manner, bhakti is to be used for vairagyam, to generate vairagyam so that you can come to jnanam. What do you use it for? Use it for improvement of Anatma. And therefore, in most people, though they do puja, they do a lot of japas, and each of these karmas, Shastra says, does what? Generates punyam. Now that punyam can be encashed either for your own welfare, or for the welfare of family members, or for more money, more land, more property, fame, everything, right? And therefore, here Krishna is saying that that is not a very good idea, because bhakti has a higher purpose. And now, from this, in the next 5 or 6 verses, there is a classification of bhakti done, right? So, from this verse number 20 up to verse number 26, it's a classification of Sakama Bhakti. And the last 3 verses, 27, 20, 20, last 4 verses, 27, 28, 29, 30 of this chapter, will be discussing Nishkama Bhakti. So all these verses now, the next 11 verses, they are essentially discussing Bhakti only, right? What is the meaning of Bhakti? The normal meaning of Bhakti is what? Devotion and worship of Ishvara. And Sakama Bhakti, by definition, Sa Kamaha. Bhakti, Sa Kamaha, accompanied by Kama, accompanied by desire. It means what? Using the Lord, using Bhakti, which is the worship of the Lord, as a means for fulfillment of your worldly desires, as a means for fulfillment of finite ends. Okay, and if you'll remember that Shastra classifies all objectives of human life. What are the objectives of human life called? Tattvaboda.
Purushartha.
Purusharthas. So you remember that Shastra classifies Purusharthas into Artha, Kama, Dharma, Moksha. So Artha is material wealth, economic wealth, finite goals only. Why finite? Because you can accumulate wealth, but like any other bank balance or gold or whatever wealth you accumulate, they can be utilized and get exhausted finally. Similarly, kamaha. Kama here means any form of entertainment, which means any form of sense pleasures. That will also end. These are all born in time and die in time. Then the third one is dharma, any form of punyam. What is the objective of punyam? It is to take me to higher worlds. So from Bhuloka, I go to Bhavarloka, Suvarloka, Maharloka, etc. And Shastram says these higher lokas are also finite in nature. They may have a longer, time frame than this loka, than Bhuloka, but ultimately they are finite. So in general, what Shastram tells us that any goal other than Ishvara is finite, because all other goals, by goal you generally take as loka. So any loka is within time and space only, right? It's born along with Srishti, it disappears along with Srishti. Time and space, Kala Deshaha, are born along with Srishti. Therefore, when Srishti disappears, anything which is contained in time and space also disappears. And therefore, any loka which is within Srishti is within time and space, it is finite. What is beyond time and space? Ishvara alone is beyond time and space. So in Vedantic language, any anatma is within time and space. All material things are within time and space. And Sakama Bhakti, the Kama Bhakti. Bhakti accompanied by desires. What can the desire be? Only for material things, only for anatma. Therefore, Sakama Bhakti is devotion, is a bhakti through which a sadhaka is looking for the fulfillment of finite goals, desires. And of course, Nishkama Bhakti Obviously, because it is nishkamaha, without kamaha, is a bhakti not used for fulfillment of any desires. Okay. Now again, here there is a corollary, or it's a caveat rather. You have to, whenever you say nishkama bhakti, you have to say that it excludes all desires. The nishkama portion, without desires, it excludes all desires excepting one. And which is that one?
Moksha.
Desire
Mo-
for moksha.
Moksha. Moksha prapti. That desire is not included in the exclusion of by saying nishkama. Nishkama bhakti still means there is desire for moksha. And very interestingly enough, that desire for moksha, is it ever fulfilled? When you say desire, you are saying it gets fulfilled. Now, nishkama bhakti is a desire for nothing excepting moksha. The desires for everything else excluded. But moksha is very much a desire. And since all desires are fulfilled, you have to think about this and tell me whether the desire for moksha is ever fulfilled.
Sir, all other desires are about getting something, whereas the desire for moksha is, it's you just realize that you already had what you've been desiring for all along.
Very good. So, the desire for moksha, it doesn't get fulfilled. It falls away because you understand through jnanam that there was never a need to have moksha because you're already Brahman. So that desire itself, though we say that Nishkama Bhakti has the desire for moksha, remember it is a desire which never gets fulfilled. It falls away. And therefore, really speaking, that is also desireless bhakti. We are using Nishkama to differentiate from worldly desires. Okay. Right. Now, both the bhakti, Sakama as well as Nishkama, they are accepted in Shastra, right? So Shastram says that both are okay. You come to Sakama Bhakti, it is also okay. But ultimately, since Nishkama Bhakti is better than Sakama, it is superior to Sakama Bhakti, you have to graduate from Sakama Bhakti to Nishkama Bhakti. And remember that in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna represents the infinite, right? And therefore, you will find that whenever we talk about Anya Devata Bhakti, any other Devata, worship of any god other than Devata, other than Krishna, basically it becomes Sakama Bhakti. So it's referred to as Anya Devata Bhakti. It doesn't mean that Krishna is there, other gods are there, and you should worship. There are interpretations which says Krishna is the only god, and everybody else should not be worshipped. So that is not what it means. What we are saying is that the same consciousness principle, which in Krishna is as Atma, formless. Krishna has a form, but the representation is formless. And therefore, Nishkama Bhakti is taken as Krishna. Sakama Bhakti is for any other Devata. The worship of any Lord, any God other than Krishna will be taken as Sakama Bhakti here. And worship of Krishna will be taken as Nishkama Bhakti because Krishna represents the infinite Brahman or the Atman. And similarly, this is because this is Bhagavad Gita, right? So if you take, let us say, a Shiva Purana, Shiva Bhakti will be Nishkama Bhakti. If you take Vishnu Puranam, then Vishnu Bhakti will be Nishkama Bhakti. So that understanding has to be there, that depending upon the text which you are reading, which is Nishkama and which is Sakama. This is Bhagavad Gita. So Krishna is Nishkama Bhakti. Now look at these words. Kamais, so we'll break it up. Kamaihi taihi, taihi, rita jnanaha. Right? So the half sa in that word is the manifestation of the visarga because the word is compounded. When you break the word, when sandhi is broken, it becomes kamaihi, kamaihi. Therefore, taihi, taihi, kamaihi. Those taihis have to be taken out from their current position and brought about in front. Taihi, taihi, kamaihi. So kamaihi means here it is the desires, the artha, the dharma, artha, kama, desires. Taihi, taihi, they want desires which are either in the nature of dharma, artha, or kama. So they want either wealth, or they want kamaha, entertainment, or they want punyam and higher lokas by dharma. So artha means money, kama means sensual pleasures, and dharma here represents the travel to the higher lokas, punyam. Therefore, taihi, taihi, kamaihi, they have all these various desires. And because they want to fulfill these various desires, what happens? Anya devataha prapadyante. So again, the second word of the first line, the avagraha is to be dropped. Avagraha is what? That looks like an inverted S that's been dropped and becomes Anya devataha prapadyante. So taihi, taihi, kamaihi, because of all these various types of artha, kama, dharma desires which they are having, Anya devataha prapadyante. They worship finite deities, right? Finite devatas. So they are doing sakama bhakti. Anya devata, we mentioned, it represents devatas who can give finite results because Krishna is taken as infinite. And therefore, if you need your eyes to be, improved, you will worship Surya Devata and so on. So they worship finite deities because finite deities only give finite results, right? So Lakshmi Devi, for example, will be what? Representing only one finite end, wealth. Surya Devata represents what? Only one finite goal, your eyesight, power of perception. Ganesha represents what? Freedom from obstacles. Again, one finite goal. So because of the fact that they have finite desires, they want to fulfill those desires. And Shastra says there are various deities who fulfill your finite desires. Therefore, they worship all those deities. That's why it says Anya Devataha. And because they are doing this, what happens? Rita Jnanaha. Rita means to rob, to obstruct. Jnana here means the Viveka Shakti, discriminative power. Rita Jnanaha, they are robbed of their Viveka Shakti. Why are they robbed? What is the logic of saying Rita Jnanaha? Rita Jnana.
Viveka.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, Acharya, please go ahead.
No, you please go ahead. Rita Jnanaha means?
Because Viveka itself means that discrimination between the finite and infinite. So as they are more interested in the finite fulfillment, desired fulfillment, so that's why that means Viveka is not there.
Yes, they have failed to realize that finite desires cannot give permanent happiness. And therefore, Ritagnyana is defined as Mudaha, Alpa Buddhayaha. So they are all people of minimum buddhi, Alpa Buddhayaha. They have Sakam Bhaktas. They have not understood that finite desires are finite. They will be giving you only finite ends. And this is a problem, right? There is a problem here also. When you are looking for finite desires to be fulfilled through bhakti, remember that this we have discussed earlier. Wherever the Lord is being approached for worldly ends, then all the rules of your Vedas come into the picture, right? Vedas have so many rules for doing puja. You have to do puja at a particular time. You have to go to temple at a particular time. You have to do a particular type of offering. And for some particular desire, you have to go so many times every week. Hundreds of rules are there, right? If you're doing puja at home, there are hundreds of rules. What type of homakund should be there? What type of oblation should be there? What type of priest should be there? How many priests you should have? What is the oblation? Which direction should the oblation be given in the homakund? Where should the oblation be given in? So many rules are there. These rules are applicable, says Shastra, whenever you are using a bhakti, that is, whenever you are approaching Ishvara through worship for finite ends, all these rules are applicable. And therefore he says, tam tam niyamam asthaya. Second line, tam tam niyamam asthaya. All those rules, tam tam niyamam, all those rules, asthaya, they religiously observe. Why? For the sake of getting that benefits. So asthaya means committed to or observing, following, and niyamam is all those rules prescribed by the Veda, Purva Veda, because of which those rules have to be followed for a particular puja. And tam tam here is, the repetition is simply to indicate that you have to connect this to tai tai. Okay, taihi, tam tam. That's why that repetition is there. Taihi means what? There are various desires. So one taihi can represent that he wants money. The other taihi can represent that he wants his eyesight to be improved. Right? So different desires are there. And tam tam. Therefore, taihi tam, that devata who is associated with the first taihi. So if it is money, Lakshmi Devi. Then tam tai, second one, that devata, let us say, who is associated with eyesight. So Surya Devata. So just the tam tam simply represents the fact that for every devata, for every desire, you have to approach that particular devata who is capable of fulfilling that desire. And Veda will lay down specific rules for the worship of each devata. And therefore, tam tam niyamam asthaya. All those rules he has to follow. Then, prakritya niyataha, ruled by, driven by prakriti. Prakriti is what? Their own nature. Own nature means what? My own ragadvesha. Prakritya niyataha. Why do I approach a particular devata for a particular result? Because I have a particular prakriti, ragadvesha, and that prakriti niyataha, it forces me to do something. I want to acquire something, I want to get rid of something, and therefore here prakriti means your own nature, your own swabhava, your own personal likes and dislikes, your own character. So driven by your own character, prakritya niyataha, forced by your own character, you go to various devatas because you have various desires. And since you go to various devatas, the Veda lays down particular rules of conduct of puja or worship, and therefore you have to follow all those rules. Right. Such a person, what is his problem? He has no time to think about whether all this running around is getting him any benefit at all. Because the whole time he is tai tai tam tam. One ragadvesha is fulfilled, another one. And ragadveshas are never one or two or 10. They are always infinite. And therefore Shankara says niyataha has to be taken as niyamitaha, enslaved by. They are enslaved by, they are bound by, they are controlled by what? Their own kamaha. Tai tai kamaha. And as a result of this preoccupation with the worldly and material goals, what is different? Problem is, they do not come to Ishvara at all. Right? And such a person is living in Dvaita or Advaita. He is living in Advaitam because for him, he is a entity. Ishvara is a completely different entity who is capable of doing things that he cannot do. Right? So as long as you are in Dvaitam, you will be preoccupied with materialistic goals. And a very good extraction from here is that any religious faith Any school of thought, any darshanam, to use the correct terminology in Sanskrit, any darshanam where Ishvara is different from you, that darshanam will keep you completely engaged with Ishvara as a giver of things, which means it will keep you completely engaged with materialistic goals, which means you will always be in samsara. There is no escape from samsara for a person who is in Dvaita. Okay. We will chant the 21st verse. Yo yo yam yam tanum bhaktaha
यो यो यां यां तनुं भक्तः
श्रद्धयार्चितुम् इच्छति
श्रद्धयार्चितुमिच्छति
तस्य तस्याचलां श्रद्धाम्
तस्य तस्याचलां श्रद्धाम्
तामेव विदधाम्यहम्
तामेव विदधाम्यहम्।
Okay. So, bhaktaha, that particular bhakta, that sadhaka, what does he do? Anya devataha. We saw that in the earlier verse. And that that Anya devata is what? Tanum. Tanum means having a form. Having a form means limited. So bhaktaha tanum, that tanum bhaktaha, the person who is worshipping a devata which is limited form. So remember that sakama bhakta, the one who has the desire to fulfill his material goals, has necessarily to go to one of these deities. We are not saying that sakama bhakti is to be negated. It is very valid, the bhakti, but and if you do that bhakti, if you engage in sakama bhakti, obviously, since you are approaching that particular devata who is capable of fulfilling your desire, and Veda says if you approach in the proper manner as prescribed by the Veda, that devata will certainly fulfill your desires. Therefore, sakama bhakti is definitely a valid bhakti. And desires will be fulfilled. But what is the condition? So he says, Shraddhayaha architum ichhati. You should have faith. So when that person who has faith in the Veda, which means that he knows by approaching that particular deity, his desire will be fulfilled. Then Krishna makes a statement. Tasya shraddham achalam vidadhami aham. Right? So tameva, that same faith. Tameva, that same faith. Tasya shraddham achalam vidadhami aham. Aham shraddham achalam vidadhami. So those tasya means those are the desires which he has, and he approaches that particular devata for the fulfillment of his desires with full shraddha. What do I do? Shraddham achalam vidadhami. Shraddha means that faith of his. Achalam vidadhami. I reinforce. I make it very strong. Achalam. I make it immovable. Means I make that faith very, very strong. That faith can never be shaken again. So the person who approaches even the finite devata in the proper manner with the proper faith, I will reinforce his faith. What does this mean? How can the faith of a person who approaches a deity for fulfillment of a particular desire, how can that faith be reinforced?
By fulfillment of those
By
desires.
fulfilling.
By fulfillment of the desires. So Krishna is saying that I will fulfill the desire. Vidadhami aham. I will fulfill the desire. What is the significance? Even though they are worshipping Anya Devatas. Right? Anya Devata is very clearly said. Prapadyante Anya Devataha, verse number 20. Is very clearly said. So even though they are approaching that finite Devata and they think that the finite Devata is fulfilling their prayer, what is actually happening? Aham vidadhami. I alone am fulfilling. Because I am the infinite Devata. All other Devatas represent only the finite parts. The finite is always part of the infinite. And therefore, any Devata that you talk about is essentially a part of Krishna only, a part of the infinite Devata only. And for there is a saying, Sarva Deva Namaskaraha Keshavam Pratigachati. You can understand? Any Namaskara to any Deva, Keshavam Pratigachati goes to Keshava only. Keshava is Ishvara. Here it is Krishna. Keshava means Krishna, the infinite Ishvara. So any puja you do to any Devata, you call that Devata by any form, any name, it doesn't matter. Ultimately, it goes to the infinite Devata only. So if Vishnu is infinite in the Vishnu Puranam, all other Devatas are finite. You can approach Shiva in Vishnu Puranam, but the Namaskara goes to Vishnu only. If it is Shiva Puranam, Shiva is infinite. If you approach Vishnu, that also goes to Shiva only. They are only two different names for one infinite God. That is why in the Vishnu Sahasranama, you have Sarva Shiva Sthanuhu. Sthanu is there, Shiva is there, Vishnu is there, everybody is there. All the names represent, all these Sahasranamas, they are very beautiful in this aspect. Whatever name you use, it is one infinite Krishna only. Okay. So Krishna says, whenever these people approach me through various devatas, they are what? They are arthas or they are artharthis. I will make their faith stronger by fulfilling the desire. Now there is a problem with that statement. Krishna is saying it, but we should know as Vedantics that there is a big problem with this statement. What is that? Krishna is indicating here by this statement, tasya achalam shraddha. I make that faith very strong. Thereby implying that strengthening of that faith is a very desirable thing. Why is it not desirable? We are turning the Shastra on its head. Okay, just remember.
Because they are satisfied with that much and then they don't desire for the infinite Ishvara.
Fair enough. So I'll grant you that. Strengthening, the discussion here is Sakama Bhakti. Strengthening Sakama Bhakti is not a good idea. Why? Because the stronger the Sakama Bhakti is, the weaker becomes Nishkama Bhakti. Right? Stronger Ahankara is. Sakama Bhakti means what? Ahankara, Mamakara, strengthening. The stronger Sakama Bhakti becomes. Sakama Bhakti is for what purpose? For my benefit and for the benefit of people close to me or things which are mine. And therefore, my benefit is Ahankara strengthening. Benefit of my possessions or my family is Mamakara strengthening. The stronger your Ahankara and Mamakara is, the weaker your Aham Brahma Asmi is. For a strong Ahankara and Mamakara, there can never be Aham Brahma. Because ahankara is, I am this body and this mind. How can the person who is saying, I am the shariram, how can he say aham brahmasmi at the same time? And therefore, ahankara mamakara strengthening is weakening of nishkama bhakti. Weakening of, you are driving away the aham brahmasmi. And Maya Devi will be sitting and having a rolling, ROFL we call it, right? Rolling on the floor with laughter. Why? Why is Maya Devi doing ROFL?
Because you are getting caught more and more in samsara only.
Because she has very successfully converted moksha giving bhakti into what? Into samsara perpetuating bhakti. So this is what Krishna is saying, that ultimately you are using Gangajal water for washing your house. Why is that so? Because you don't understand the meaning of the Gangajal. Okay, I'll give you a small break here before we go on to the next one. Any questions?
Acharya.
Yes, which one of you wants to speak first?
June, please go ahead.
Thank you. So can you please give us again the complete translation of this verse?
Oh, okay. So yo
But just
yam
say,
yam yo
yeah,
yam yam tanum bhakta. Okay, I'll give you the word-to-word translation so that you won't get confused. Yaha or yo is yaha bhaktaha. Whichever devotee, which devotee? In English, translate straight into English. Which devotees? Whichever be the devotee. Yam tanum shraddhaya, and to whichever limited deity, shraddhaya, with faith, architum ichhami, he is wishing to worship. Right? So he's saying, whichever devotee wishes to worship whichever form of mind, whichever finite God, but with faith, what do I do? Tasya, for that devotee, tameva shraddha, that very same misplaced faith. The misplaced is in brackets, okay, that is mine, not Krishna's. That very same misplaced faith, aham achalam vidadami, I make it very strong. So I stabilize that very faith of the devotee with which he is approaching the finite God. That faith is misplaced. Why? Because he does not understand that benefit, that phalam being given by the finite God also comes from me alone.
thank you.
Okay, somebody else. Amit, was it you who had a question?
Acharya, it's Kush.
Yeah, okay.
Acharya. So, Acharya, sometimes it happens that you go some very strong FIR due to your day-to-day transactions, and there comes a time that you try to assume, you try to get back to the knowledge part, but because of huge disturbances in the mind, some still emotional attachment, especially with some strong relations, you are not able to. You are not able to stabilize your raga, your FIR. In that case, if you ask for Ishwara's grace and pray for that Ishwara help me come out of it, but would it be Sakama Bhakti or
No, it
Nishkama
will be
Bhakti?
Nishkama, because you're asking for Chitta Shuddhi basically. Chitta Shuddhi is Nishkama.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yes, Pandana ji.
Acharya.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I mean, this translation is basically saying I make this Sakama Bhakti very strong, but we just said, that in the end doesn't serve the person.
Correct.
So
But he's saying that for the, Sakama Bhakta, what is the main objective in life? It is for the fulfillment of the desires. And so he wants to keep that faith strong for him, so that he doesn't wander. Remember, we are talking pure Sakama person who has not yet understood that those desires are finite. So the second part of the explanation is for us who are Vedantins. But
Okay.
for the Sakama person, the faith is very necessary. Because if continuously you go to the Lord and you don't get desires fulfilled, then that Sakama Bhakta is likely to become a non-Bhakta, which Krishna doesn't want happening. So he fulfills desires.
Thank you.
Yes, Lataji.
Yeah, so in continuing with that, Raviji, what I wanted to ask is that the reason why we say Ishvara is Brahman plus Maya?
Ishvara is
Is
Brahman
my
plus Maya because Brahman is Akarta. Brahman can't do anything for you.
yeah, but then Ishvara only is fulfilling our desires, right?
It is Ishvara only. It is Ishvara with Maya who fulfills desires. Because fulfillment of desires means you have to do something. You are a Karta. Brahman
Correct.
cannot be Karta. Only Ishvara can be Karta.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
Okay. So now we look at the next verse. We'll chant verse number 22. Sataya Shraddhaya Yuktaha
Sataya Shraddhaya Yuktah
Tasya Radhanamihate
Tasya
Radhanamihate.
radhanamihate
Lavate cha tatak kaman
Labhate tatah kaman
Labate cha tatak kaman
Labhate tatah kaman
Mayeva vihitan hitan.
Mayeva
So there are some people who are chanting, who are violating the chanting rules. So when you say tatah kaman, you are pronouncing the visarga, which is not allowed here. That visarga can be pronounced only under very specific conditions. What is that? So the visarga is followed by?
Yeah.
By pavarga. Paha, pa, all those things. Okay. So here, what happens to visarga? Because it's followed by ka.
It will be
turns
half
into
a ka.
It
Half
turns
a
into
ka.
half ka. Remember that. So labate cha tatak kaman. Yes, that's why you should go to chanting classes. Anyway, Maya vihit. So we go back to the meaning. I'll just mute all of you all 1 second. All right. Sataya Shraddhaya Yuktaha. So this has to be connected to Shraddham Achalam Vidadhami Aham. I have made this Shraddha strong. And therefore, Sa, that person, Taya Shraddhaya Yuktaha, now committed with reinforced bhakti. With that reinforced bhakti, what does it do? Tasya Radhanam Ihate. He Tasya Aradhanam Ihate. He worships Tasya, that same deity he worships, but with more faith than before. Why more faith? Because he worshipped once, he got his phalam, whatever desire he was, that was fulfilled. He worshipped twice, he worshipped 3 times. Every time I have fulfilled his desire. And therefore, every time that faith is getting reinforced. So now when he worships with more faith, with a committed, reinforced faith he worships. With a complete conviction that yes, whatever I ask for, he will get. And therefore, tataha kaman lavate. So, just rearrange the words in the second line. Tataha kaman lavate. Those extra desires that he has, those are also fulfilled by me through that same finite devata. He thinks Anya devataha kaman labate. Anya devata is fulfilling his desires. But I, Krishna, the infinite Lord alone, am fulfilling his desires. And therefore he says, Mayeva, by me alone, kaman vihitan hitan. those kama, they are fulfilled by me alone. By me, the Krishna, infinite Krishna alone, I am fulfilling, operating through the finite devatas. Therefore, I am not only the ultimate receiver of all the pujas, of all the ahutis, I am also the ultimate fulfiller of all the desires. And therefore, Krishna is saying there is nothing wrong if you are asking something from me, right? If you have just got married and you would like a child, then you are not going to come to ask me for moksha because the child is what you want, right? So there is no problem with that. Immediate objective is not moksha. What you're asking is a child. It is sakama puja. It is subject to shastric prescriptions. And if any of those prescriptions, any of those rules of Shastra are violated, then you may not get the results. So it is fine to have Sakama Bhakti, right? But remember, there was I don't know if the ad is still there. There was a coffee ad. You have those things which you dip for getting coffee, right? You know what the ad said? Do you remember? The coffee bag. You have to dip in the hot water to get coffee.
Dip, add the sugar, add the milk, and you're ready to sip.
There was another line.
Do you want it stronger? Dip a little longer.
Absolutely. If you want it stronger, dip a little longer. So this is what Krishna is saying. You want your Sakama Bhakti longer, stronger, you dip a little longer. The longer you stay in samsara, the stronger is your Sakama Bhakti, which is not a great idea at all. Okay, we'll stop for today. Any questions?
Sir, I have a question. Sir, while answering one of the question, I think it was Kushji's question. You mentioned that desiring for Chitta Shuddhi comes under Nishkama Bhakti.
Yes.
But sir, Chitta Shuddhi is also for the mind, and the mind is at the end of the day an Atma. So it just a little confused.
But what is the object of Chitta Shuddhi?
Eventually moksha.
Yes. Chitta Shuddhi is the sahakari sadhana, supporting sadhana for moksha. Any sadhana connected directly with moksha is Nishkama Bhakti. Even if you are doing puja and the sankalpa is, please get my mind strong, please give my mind free of ragadvesha, please don't let me get influenced by ragadvesha. All are for the mind only. For that matter, even if you are saying things like, let me have a stronger body, but not for, winning the Olympics, but for being able to sit longer for puja so that my mind can be strengthened further. That is also Nishkama Bhakti. It is the objective, the sankalpa. Sankalpa is the resolution you make, before a puja. Before every puja, there is a sankalpa. What are you telling the God? That I am doing this, O Lord, but the purpose is this. That statement of your purpose is very important in any puja, and that is called sankalpa. Of course, we are assuming that your sankalpa which you are stating is the same as the sankalpa actually there in your mind, right? But you can make a sankalpa loudly for the benefit of others, while your mental sankalpa is different. That is not what we are saying, because the Lord knows what is the real sankalpa. So the mental sankalpa, which is the real sankalpa, the real statement of your purpose, or your real purpose, you might say, in the puja, that is called the sankalpa. That sankalpa defines whether it is nishkama or sakama.
Understood, sir. Thank you.
It is very important, okay, the sankalpa, because most of us just pray. But in the tradition, before you do a puja, you have to state the mental sankalpa. You have to tell the Lord, this is why I am doing it.
Right, sir.
Yes, please.
Along with this sankalpa, if we have a sankalpa of moksha for person, but for children, if we just ask it, they get Sad Buddhi, so they also travel this, they also tread this path. Does that become a Sakama?
That is Sakama. Because you are asking for the child because of your attachment to the child.
Okay. Even if it's for prayers that travel the path of.
The purpose is when my child becomes a Jnani, I will be happy.
Okay.
Therefore, it is essentially meant for yourself, not for moksha purposes. Some worldly this thing. Nothing wrong with that. Okay, I'm not saying you should not do that.
Yes.
But it is very unlikely, in my opinion, that the Lord will answer questions which basically should come from him, the child. Unless the child wants moksha, it's very unlikely that, because it's a different jiva, right?
Yeah. So that can be considered just as a prayer that may.
Prayer. It generates punyam.
Okay.
If you pray for your child, it generates punyam. That punyam you can encash whichever way you want.
Okay.
You know, it's strange to say that I'm praying so that I can get punyam, so that I can get chitta-shuddhi, but the prayer is for chitta-shuddhi of my child. It's a very strange prayer, but still.
In a way that everybody lives, uplifts their life standards. The point is that.
Sarve bhavantu sukhinaha. That's a general thing meant for the benefit of everybody. That's pure nishkama.
Okay.
But you can't use that for specifics. Like, you know, when you say sarve bhavantu sukhinaha,
means everybody.
In that survey, your child is included, right? You can't say that everybody be peaceful, but let my child be more peaceful. You know, that right. Is not Sakama.
Sakama. Okay. Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so if there are no more questions, we can close for the day. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashyate Om Shanti 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 Om Tat Sat Om Namah Shivaya. Thank you for your patience.
Om Namah Shivaya. Thank you, Guru.